When you enroll in law school, the Office of the Registrar will hand over to you a document entitled Undertaking and Waiver. This document essentially contains two parts. The first is that you, the brand new law student, promises to complete the following units that the Supreme Court requires, which you may not have taken during your undergraduate degree. Deficiency units ang tawag dito, kapatid, at usually pasok sa deficiency ang ilang units ng English, Math at Social Sciences. Once you sign this document, you are making a promise to your law school that you will complete the subjects on this list by either enrolling in the undergraduate programs of your school or crossing over to another university. I have a very old video on how to complete your deficiency units, and I will leave a link to that in the description down below. Usually, you have 1 year to complete your deficiency units. The second part of the document is a waiver. The waiver gives your school the right to dismiss you as their law student, that you are waiving your right to admission as their law student in the event that you fail to complete your deficiency units within the given period. Na kung sakaling hindi ka makapagpasa ng katibayan mo na natapos mo nga ang mga deficiency units, ay talsik ka na sa law school mo. Article 6 of the Civil Code provides that rights may be waived unless the waiver is contrary to law, public order, public policy, morals or good customs, or prejudicial to a third person with a right recognized by law. This provision contains a lot of big words, kapatid, but we will try to simplify this. Mabuti na dito na natin aralin kung ano ang isang right, ano ang waiver, at kailan valid ang waiver. Dahil may mga professor, kapatid, na pagkatapos ng Article 2 of the Civil Code, tumatalon na yan ng Articles 19, 20, and 21. A right is a power or a privilege that is given to one person. As a rule, this power or privilege is demandable against another person or persons. The following are the elements of a right. 1. Subject persons, the active subject or the person who has the power and privilege, and the passive subject or the person against whom this power and privilege is demandable. 2. Object. This is the thing or service that is covered by the right. 3. Efficient cause, the fact that gives rise to the power or privilege. Halimbawa, A borrows the sum of 10,000 pesos from B payable on or before December 31, 2020. In this scenario, B has the power, the privilege, and most importantly, the right to collect 10,000 pesos from A. B is the person with power, therefore B is the active subject of this right. The right can be enforced against A dahil si A ang umutang. This makes A the passive subject of the right. The object of this right is the 10,000 pesos na inutang ni A kay B. The efficient cause in this scenario, the fact that gave rise to the power or privilege, is the contract of loan. Kung hindi nagpautang si B kay A, then there would be no right to collect. When the law talks about rights, the law breaks them down into categories. Political rights are rights that stem from our participation in government. Some of these rights are given to us by virtue of being Filipinos. Some are guaranteed by the Constitution. However, kapatid, it is wrong to think of political rights as rights arising from the Constitution. Karapatan mo yan bago pa man may Constitution. Karapatan mo yan dahil ikaw ay Pilipino. Isinulat yan sa saligang batas para maging malinaw sa lahat at maging resibo mo na may karapatan ka. The second category is civil rights. These are rights that are also inherent to us as human beings but pertain specifically to our relationships with others. We have the human right to life, and because the Constitution guarantees our right to life, it becomes unlawful to impose the death penalty. Civil rights also include our rights in relation to our families and in relation to our properties. Halimbawa, the Civil Code provisions on succession are there because they are an extension of our right to property that will extend even after we die. Nariyan sila para kahit papaano ay masunod naman ang ating mga huling habilin sa mga taong ating iiwan. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in civil law, and more specifically in succession, is how to deal with death and dying. Sa unang ilang linggo na inaaral namin ng succession, lungkot na lungkot kami na ang usapan sa klase ay kung sino ang mamamatay, paano ang hatian ng mana. I think nakaramdam din doon si Dean Navarro. So before the class ended, he said, "Class, when we learn about succession, and this is mostly about death and dying, when a person makes a will, it does not mean you will die next week or next month. When you make a will, think of it as a license para magpayaman at mas marami kang matulungan at mabiyayaan kahit ikaw ay hindi nakasama ng mga mahal mo o mamahalin mo sa buhay." This lesson is important to isolate ourselves from the morbid nature of the law on succession. Another point I would like to make is that when the law speaks of rights, they often refer to them as real rights and personal rights. A real right is a right that is enforceable against the world. A personal right is a right that is enforceable against a specific person or persons. Now that we know what a right is, let's talk about waivers. What is a waiver? What rights can be waived? All of this and more coming right up. Hi, my name is Lex and welcome to Lex in Motion. In this channel, I'll be helping you build your competence, confidence, and capability in law school. Start today by hitting the subscribe button below. New episodes are posted every Friday. In FF Cruz & Company versus HR Construction Corporation, the Supreme Court defined a waiver as a voluntary and intentional relinquishment or abandonment of a known existing legal right, advantage, benefit, claim, or privilege, which, except for such waiver, the party would have enjoyed. A waiver is the intentional relinquishment of a known right. Ang pagsuko, pagtalikod at pagpapaubaya sa isang karapatan ay nangangahulugan na naiintindihan mo muna ang karapatan mo. Kung hindi mo naiintindihan at nauunawaan kung ano ang iyong binibitawan, then the law provides that there is no real waiver. Going back to our earlier example, B lends the sum of 10,000 pesos to A and the loan is payable on or before December 31, 2020. In our example, B has the right to extend the period to pay from December 31 to January 31, 2021. He also has the power to waive, to surrender, to relinquish his right to the 10,000 pesos. Pwedeng-pwede niyang sabihin na, "Paps, huwag mo nang bayaran yung 10,000 na yan. Tulong ko na lang yan sa inyong pamilya." In the same scenario, A, the borrower has the right to make use of the period between today and December 31, 2020. Pwede siyang rumakit, kumita or dumiskarte ng pambayad niya mula sa araw na to hanggang December 31, 2020. He has the right to make use of the period but he does not have the power to say, "Paps, hindi na ako magbabayad ng 10,000 pesos. This is because he does not have the power to waive, because he does not have a right to the object of the right. In other words, A has the obligation to pay and obligations cannot be waived. From the same case I cited earlier, the Supreme Court teaches us that there are three ways of making a waiver. 1. The voluntary abandonment or surrender of the right. 2. Conduct that warrants an inference of the relinquishment of the right. 3. Intentional doing of an act inconsistent with claiming it. What the Supreme Court is showing us here is that rights can be waived expressly, that they can be surrendered through written instruments signed by the person making the waiver. Rights can also be waived impliedly, that is kahit walang malinaw na pagtalikod sa isang karapatan, pwedeng-pwede pa ring magpaubaya na lang depende sa ating mga kinikilos. Gamitin ulit natin ang example natin kanina. B has the right to collect and the right to extend the period of the loan. He can execute an express waiver by signing a deed of donation in favor of A. That essentially states he is giving him 10,000 pesos. He can also execute a document that extends the period of payment from December 31, 2020 to January 31, 2021. These are express waivers. If for whatever reason B knows that A is not in a solid position financially, then he can make an implied or implicit waiver as to the period. Pwedeng hindi na lang niya singilin si A sa December 31. Total bagong taon yan at busy siya sa pag-iihaw ng barbecue at pagtatagay ng malamig na beer. If he does not collect on December 31, he is in effect waiving the right to the period but not necessarily the right to collect that 10,000 pesos. A for his part has the right to make use of the period between today until December 31, 2020 to pay his obligation of 10,000 pesos. Walang karapatan si A na magsabi na hindi siya magbabayad. Pero meron siyang karapatang sulitin ng bawat araw para gumawa ng pera. If he makes a letter to B stating that he will pay on June 1, 2020, then he is in effect expressly waiving the right to use all of the time between June 2 until the due date. If he approaches B next week and hands over the 10,000 pesos sa loob ng isang envelope, then there is an implied or implicit waiver on his part to make use of the period. In Article 6 of the Civil Code, the law teaches us that rights may be waived. There is no specific form as to the waiver except when the law specifically requires a form for the waiver. The waivers that require specific forms are the waivers that you will later learn in taxation. But for now, we will stick to the general rule that waivers do not require a specific form precisely because they are optional. For a waiver to be valid, kahit express yan or implied, kahit ano pang form yan, the following requisites must be present. 1. A person must actually have the right which he or she renounces. 2. A person must have the capacity to make the renunciation. 3. The renunciation must be made in a clear and unequivocal manner. 4. The waiver must not be contrary to law, public order, public policy, morals, or good customs, or prejudicial to a third person with a right recognized by law. The first requisite na pag-usapan na natin yan, hindi mo pwedeng talikuran ng isang karapatan na wala naman sa'yo. In our earlier example, A cannot waive the payment of 10,000 pesos because he is the person obliged to pay this. He does not have the power or privilege to gift it to himself. The second requisite is legal capacity to make the renunciation. This means that anyone who has to sign a waiver, katulad nung unang halimbawa natin tungkol sa deficiency units, ikaw bilang law student ay presumably lampas na ng 18 years old at alam mo naman na ang pinasok mo. Sa third requisite, parang may conflict ito sa rule na walang specific form ang waiver. Actually, there is no conflict, kapatid. Nagsisimula ang kalituhan sa third requisite kapag inisip mo ang express and implied waivers. Kung express, it must be worded in such a way na walang duda sa laman ng document. Kung implied, makikita natin yan sa conduct or behavior in relation to the right. Kung nagbayad before the due date, malinaw na hindi na niya gustong gamitin ang period to pay. Finally, the fourth requisite, and this is the heart of the rule contained in Article 6 of the Civil Code. The general rule is that all rights can be waived. The exceptions are 1. When they are contrary to law, public order, public policy, morals, or good customs. 2. When the waiver is prejudicial to a third person with a right recognized by law. When you pass the written exam, complete your interview, and submit all of your documentary requirements for admission in law school, you earn the right to be part of your law school. This means that you now have the right to a safe and conducive learning environment. You now have the right to enroll in law school and learn the law, so long as you meet the maintaining average or you do not commit acts that will merit disciplinary action. You have the right to remain in your law school. This right, however, can be waived, and it is this right to be part of your school that you are waiving and surrendering if you ever fail to complete your deficiency units. Elsewhere in the Civil Code, the right to future inheritance cannot be waived. This is because Article 777 of the Civil Code provides that the rights to the succession are transmitted from the moment of the death of the decedent. Before the moment of death, there is only a future right. Wala pang napapasa sa'yo, kapatid. Kulang ang first requisite. Can you waive the benefits of the minimum wage? The answer is no, because this waiver is contrary to law. The minimum wage is the lowest sum of money a person must be paid by an employer. It is not called the recommended wage. It is a minimum wage. Another exception laid down in Article 6 of the Civil Code is that a person cannot waive rights that would prejudice or negatively affect the rights of a third person. The best way to understand this is by going back to our earlier example. B has the right to extend the period for payment para kay A, or B has the right to waive the payment of 10,000 pesos. However, if B also has an obligation to pay C 10,000 pesos at ang tanging yaman na lang ni B sa mundong ibabaw ay ang 10,000 pesos na yan, hindi niya yon pwedeng isuko pabor kay A dahil si C naman ang apektado. This is what the law means when it prohibits waivers affecting the rights of a third person. To summarize today's lesson, a right is a power or privilege belonging to a person and it is demandable against another. Rights can be waived, relinquished, or surrendered. They can be waived expressly, that is in writing, or they can be waived impliedly through action or inaction. A person must have a right before he can waive it. He must have the legal capacity to waive that right. Generally, all rights can be waived. The exceptions are 1. Contrary to law, public policy, public order, morals, and good customs. 2. Prejudicial to third persons with a right recognized by the law. Rights and waivers are common concepts that you will encounter later on in constitutional law, criminal procedure, here in civil law, and most of all in taxation and remedial law. These concepts are easy to learn but very difficult to master. I think we can stop here, kapatid. There is a short quiz and I hope you participate, kapatid. I am happy to report that we are improving as a community. Tumataas ang average score natin sa bawat linggong lumilipas. And I hope this continues. If you would like to see more of the same content at gusto mong ipagpatuloy pa nating pag-usapan ang mga hindi na itinuturo sa law school, then please let me know by typing yes in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Like and share this video for good law school karma and I will see you next Friday.